You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's show. We definitely want to thank each of you for tuning in and supporting the show. If you would like to get a little bit of extra support to our show, you can head on over to patreon.com/snoboscast to get all the details on how you can watch the show live and get access to exclusive content. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the show this week because it is Valentine's Day and we want to make sure that we get through this. So if you have something going on after, you can make sure you get to that as well. We're going to kick it off with the Lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. Starting off with a little bit of a rumor. If you know, Apple typically sticks to a schedule when it comes to Apple events. We know that there's usually a spring event, WWDC, which is in June, so a summer event, and usually a fall event around September. So we are currently in the middle of February. So if there is an event, a spring event in March, which people are suggesting that it will be, and sticking to Apple's, formula or timeline, that is likely the case. So I did find an article, that talked about, what's coming in, what people can expect from the event. We all know rumors, people guessing. It can always kind of be either way. People just throw a bunch of stuff out there to, try and say, oh, yeah, see, I was right. So instead of going with, what they expect or what they predict, I figured I'd ask you, Brother Tech, what do you hope to see and what do you actually expect to see?
That's a good question. I mean, it would make sense for new iPads, specifically an iPad Air and maybe an iPad Pro, since they recently, did they just come out with the iPad 10 generation, 10th gen? I don't know.
I think they did. But I don't think we got an iPad update last year.
No,
I don't think we got an iPad update last year.
no, we don't. And I'm surprised that people are clamoring for iPad updates every year, similar to iPhones. iPhones are going to come out every year because that's what Apple makes the most bank on.
Bread and
So you
butter.
better believe every year they're coming out with a new phone, come hell or high water, right? But with the iPads, though, I'm surprised that people just assume that because they didn't come out with a new iPad in 2023, that automatically that means they're going to come out with one for 2024. But if there's any device that they would be looking to update, since there was no iPad in 2023, there's no new iPad in 2023, I guess it makes sense for them to be looking for one in 2024. Me personally, I think iPads could be a every 2-year update cycle. Unless there's some new technology, like they figure out a new way to do facial recognition, retina ID or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Which Face ID is kind of like that, but specifically, whatever, something new, I would then they'd be like, all right, well, let's just put in an iPad, right? But I personally, I'd be okay with every couple years coming out with a new iPad, similar to how they do MacBooks. They don't do MacBooks every year. They only do MacBooks every 2 years. It just depends on what's going on with Apple when they decide to announce a new Mac, right?
Especially when they have everything, especially when they have all the Macs on Apple Silicon now, there's not really a huge reason to do a release every year because now everything is off of Intel and onto Apple Silicon.
Right. But, Apple's going to get that money. So if they feel like they can put out a new product and they get some change, I mean, they're going to do it. But yeah, I would assume in a March event, there'll be a new iPad Pros, maybe a new iPad Air, and maybe whatever um, accessories, whether it be a different Apple Pencil or a new keyboard or something of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. That would be my best guess as to what I could see Apple doing in March.
Mm-hmm. As for me, I hope that we get new iPad Pros. I'm definitely in the market for one. I was trying to hold out last year. I almost got a new iPad Air, but I was like, I'll hold out one more time to see if they come out with the new Pro. I also hope that they refresh the do a new launch or a refresh of the AirPod Pro Max, the over the ears, because I've been looking
Mhm.
for some over the ears. We haven't seen any type of refresh or update other than firmware updates to the AirPod Max since they first launched. What, maybe 3 years ago? Has it been?
Mhm.
It's been like 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm hoping that we see something to that effect. I'm thinking that this spring event may be a very heavy like accessory type launch because, as you mentioned, everything isn't updated every year. And unless they're coming out with some completely new hardware, I don't know at this point what else, they could really refresh that would, really move the needle for them, especially with the launch of Vision Pro. That's pretty much all anybody has been talking about. I was going through, the news looking for stuff for today, and I'm like, my goodness, everything is Apple Vision Pro. Not even just on like the Apple centric sites, but on the non Apple centric sites. It's like whether it's saying, oh, this is great, or people are returning them, or the whole thing with Zuckerberg. And I'm like, of course Zuckerberg is going to trash the Vision Pro because he's Zuckerberg and he has a competing product. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. I don't know, maybe a new Apple TV, maybe a new HomePod line,
I really wish Apple would get serious about music
home
hardware.
automation.
Not
Oh,
home
music.
automation.
Uh
Yeah,
huh.
music. I said it before. I'll say it again. I would hope Apple would buy Sonos because
Mm-hmm.
these home pods I have had not the most trouble with, but I've
Mm-hmm.
got two in the house right now, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really like, I really wouldn't consider buying another one because of just the intermittent issues. It like sometimes it'll play, sometimes it'll take forever to play. It'll just randomly cut off when I try to ask it questions. You need to unlock your iPhone first, or you need to turn on personal requests. It's like I turn on personal requests once a month, it seems like. And then after a certain amount of time, it just automatically defaults to turning personal requests off. Because for those who don't know, if we had, like in my family, we've got multiple people in the house, and I may walk up to the home pod in the kitchen, which is the main one, and say,
Mm-hmm.
add apples to shopping list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of fumbling around on my watch or trying to find my phone, I could
Mm-hmm.
just say, hey, Siri, add apples to shopping list, which
Mm-hmm.
we share a shopping list to where anybody in the house on their any of their devices, they can add items to the shopping list. And then that triggers, whomever's going shopping. All right, just
Mm-hmm.
automatically go to the list because stuff is there, right? But with
Right.
this home pod, it's just like, who's speaking right now? I'm like, oh, it's Terrence. Well, to to do personal quests, please turn on. It's like I did that already. So all around the
It's
world to say,
on. It's
yeah,
on.
all the way around the world to say, I am nonplussed at the most, and a little disappointed at the least. Well, not reverse. I'm nonplussed at the least, a little disappointed at the most about HomePods and how they
Mm,
operate. To so
yeah.
much so to where it's like I wish Apple just buy Sonos, let Sonos run the whole music hardware part,
Yeah.
and come out with some more products
Yeah.
because nobody one one home pod is enough. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
trying to have two put in stereo mode so you can play, watch TV and have this
Mm-hmm.
sound coming through the AirPods, and one's acting up, the other one's acting right. And then that's just too much. Just Apple just put out a sound bar, or
Mm-hmm.
just let Sonos do it. Buy Sonos and let them do it.
Well, I have to agree. I have three HomePod minis. Two of them work pretty much seamlessly all the time, but it's that one that refuses. It's always something. I have to reboot that thing or reset it more times than I can count, and it's really annoying, that one. And it's the one that's in my master bedroom. It just She's just like, look, I'm doing my own thing. Y'all can figure out what you're doing. So I hope I did see some rumors when I was looking around that there's possibly going to be like an LCD screen or something on the home pod, not the mini, but the regular home pod. So it sounds like they're doing something in that space. So we'll see, how much they improve, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Next up, Apple has really gotten a lot of, I won't say flack, but there's been quite a bit of talk because Apple hasn't come right out with an AI tool. And when I say AI tool, I mean more on the generative AI side, because you have all these chatbots and it was like, what is Apple doing? What is Apple? Trust me, Apple is using AI, it's using machine learning, just not in the way that most of these other companies are, and the way that most people think what AI is, because that's all they've been presented with, which is either generative AI, generative text AI, chatbots, those type of things. So Apple has finally, I guess, officially thrown its hat into the I'll call it understandable AI game by coming up with this new tool called Keyframer, and it's basically an AI animation generator that basically can take a still image and a text prompt and transform the image. So one of the instances in the article is take a static image of the planet Saturn and issue the command prompt, make the planet spin. And then that's what the image will do. So all of this has come to light from Apple researchers in a paper. So it's not something that's even out yet. It's something that Apple is currently working on. Based on the report, the paper from the Apple researchers, currently their target market for this type of tool is our graphic professionals. But if you think about this, pretty much anybody can use this for social media, small businesses, large businesses. If you can basically just take a static image, tell it to do something, and then it does it. Like I said, it is an early stage tool, and we don't know how Keyframer is going to present itself. If it's going to be its own standalone application, is it going to be embedded or integrated into, whether it's iOS, iPad OS, Mac OS, or all of them. This is something that is new and on the horizon. So like I said, it's kind of Apple's official hat toss into what I'm calling understandable AI.
I would assume this would be in Final Cut Pro. I can't think of any products that Apple has, hardware or software, that is heavy graphics, with the exception of Final Cut Pro. Do they have a photo? They have the Photos app, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not marketed towards graphic professionals,
Right.
unless they're coming up with a brand new product to compete with like an Adobe Illustrator or a
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop, something of that nature, which I don't see Apple doing. Maybe this just will be included in Final Cut Pro, because keyframes, is what you use to, animate or add action or just change the camera angle, for a specific part in your video. So I would assume, if anything, it'll be added into Final Cut, and then maybe used someplace else once they figured out how to make it more user friendly.
Yeah. So, I guess maybe people will be, what am I saying? Of course, they're going to still talk about it. That Apple hasn't really jumped in the ring, but this is, their way of doing it. And I think when Apple does launch their version of AI, it will be very Apple specific. And then I think other folks will start trying to clamor on to how Apple is made the decision to use AI in a consumer based type product. Because like I said, they are obviously using AI now. It's just not consumer based or consumer focused. Next up, if you remember back when iOS 17.3 was released, there was a new feature um, where you could AirPlay from your phone to hotels. Well, one of the primary consumer electronics companies, LG, are expected to start installing their first AirPlay enabled TVs into hotels, quote, later this spring. So it sounds like late spring is when LG plans to have these TVs available. So the feature requires installing this whatever the underlying software is into the television, and specifically the LG Pro centric smart hotel TV has that technology, and that's going to start being available to hotels you know around the, I would assume, start off in the US and then expand out. Apple, when they first announced AirPlay, they said that it would start in IHG hotels and resorts. So if you think of your Crown Plazas, your Intercontinental hotels, those are the type of hotels that Apple had committed to saying, "Hey, this is going to be the first hotel group that uses this
So is
technology."
so it's the hotel group or the TV? Because it says in your thing, the feature requires installing a new television like the LG Pro Centric Smart Hotel TV. That sounds TV based. I'm curious as to what Apple has partnered with the actual hotel. Is it for just to be exclusive that they're going to buy these LG TVs? I would assume, my assumption is
Hmm.
that Apple is going to partner with LG and come out with this hotel TV, and then it's up to LG to reach out to the hotels and say, "I want y'all to be the exclusive partner of these TVs that, oh, by the way, also have Apple TV built into it," if that makes sense.
So it sounds like to me, I'm reading from the article that I got this from on Apple Insider. It sounds like it's two separate things.
Okay.
LG is saying, "Hey, we got this product for you to buy." And Apple has already said the first hotels that are going to be using this are Intercontinental. So it
Mhm.
seems to me you have two different vested parties. Apple at the top saying, IHG are going to be the first ones to have it. And LG was like, "Well, we got it." So LG and IHG need to combine because they're supposed to be the first ones to have it. And you have the actual hardware. So y'all need to get together and make this happen. It looks like Apple is kind of like the middleman to kind of bringing these two things together. But based on this article from Apple Insider, it's two separate things. LG is
Well,
saying we have the hardware, and Apple is saying, "Well, we already said that these IHG hotels are going to be the first ones to do it,
and
to implement it."
just looking at the picture, from what I can glean from just this image they're using in this story, is the way the hotel is involved is they are making it more seamless to connect to a AirPlay enabled TV over the network. So
Right.
the
So it'll
network,
be a QR code that's
right,
on the TV that you scan, and that's how you get the
right,
transfer.
right. But it's not, it's the way I picture AirPlay
Hmm.
working is my phone has to connect to the AirPlay, the Apple TV box. And then the Apple TV box is what streams the content to the television. Well, the way they've got it, the way it looks like it's set up now is I'm not connecting to a box. I'm connecting to the hotel's network, which the network is then will recognize the TV associated with that room. And then that's how you make the connection, which I guess could be a little bit um I guess maybe stronger signal since my phone is essentially connecting to the home network. I mean
Hmm.
to the hotel network versus connecting directly to the Apple TV box. Since essentially there's no more Apple TV box because the TVs are going to be shipped with Apple Play built in. I mean Apple Play.
Yeah, that's
Apple.
that's what it seems like. It because it's saying in the article, it says one of the things is it's like you likely won't see this widespread immediately. The article says it could be years before customers can expect to find an AirPlay compatible TV in most hotels. So it
Right.
sounds like to me what we think of as Apple TV, whatever that technology is now being built in to these televisions. And when you turn it on, then that's what you're connecting to. Whatever the black box is that's in the TV that has that capability. And when you turn on the TV, it's going to give you that, QR code, and that's what you're connecting to. I think the TV is going to have to integrate with the hotel's network. And
Mhm.
then when you pop up your phone, you're scanning that QR code. And that's where I guess the facilitation between the AirPlay and the actual playing from your phone to the TV.
Right.
So yeah, it sounds kind of complicated. On the actual implementation, the usage seems very, very simple. And like the article says, it'll probably take a while for everybody to get caught up, for this to be widespread. Pretty much like, people have, every hotel already has a flat screen TV.
Right.
And they're not going to be willing to upgrade this just all willy nilly, especially when everybody doesn't have iPhone and it's very iPhone specific.
And a bunch of TVs already come smart ready.
Yeah.
Roku, there's Roku. The most I've seen is Roku specific TVs,
Mm-hmm.
which is just like an extra step because once you turn on the Roku TV in the hotel, it automatically gives you YouTube TV and YouTube and Netflix and Disney and Apple TV. So it's almost like, all right, well, right now, we're fine as far as the hotel's concerned, as long as people can sign into their accounts on all these different apps that's already connected to our TV. Why I got to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get this specific TV that has a specific Apple TV, you know, connectivity when they can just sign into the account and go on about the
Yeah.
business.
But I think what they're probably trying to head off is the whole password sharing
Yeah.
type of thing. And it's like Netflix is based on your home network and you can't really give it to your kid at college or whatever the case may be. So even if you go to a hotel and you try and sign, it's like, ooh, are you sharing your password? You're not on your home network. So I think this may be kind of preemptive to the wide implementation of not only Netflix saying we're cracking down on password sharing, but Hulu, Amazon Prime, all of the other pluses are going to, I think, eventually get to that place where, they put like a geofence around your house to say anybody trying to use this password login combination that's outside of this geofenced area, which is your house or which is your home network, you can't use it. So I think this may be kind of a bit of a workaround for that. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. But one of the positive things they also say, while we close this out, is that you don't have to necessarily worry about switching out the hardware once you get it, because any updates can be done, over the air because of the technology that's built into the television. So, you know, that's kind of the way they are looking at it now. All right, wrapping up the lowdown this week, we gotta talk a little bit of Vision Pro because Vision Pro is on everybody's mind. So when Vision Pro launched at the beginning of the month, folks have had their Vision Pro devices for about 2 weeks now. When it launched, it had 600 apps already built in. They are currently up to over 1,000 apps that are specifically designed for the Vision Pro. So that does bode well for people who currently have them or are thinking about purchasing them. But similar to what the article says, it has all of these apps, yes, which is great. However, you don't necessarily have the main ones that people care about, like a YouTube, like a Netflix, like a Spotify. All of the big names haven't come on board yet. What you do have is, in addition to the 1,000 or so that they already have, you have every iPad app that is currently in the App Store can be used on the Vision Pro if you run it in that compatibility mode. So that does open you up to a wider breadth of apps. Unfortunately, though, for new apps that are coming in, developers have the option to say, yeah, no, we aren't going to make our iPad app work in Vision Pro. We're not going to have them work in this compatibility mode. So it's one of those things where it's kind of forcing people, developers, develop app companies to create native apps specifically for Vision Pro. So I don't know, this could be seen as a good thing, meaning maybe some smaller app companies or developers are going to get, pushed up, popped up to the top because, there are limited apps. Or it could be one of those things where people say it's not enough of the apps that I use to make it worth the price. So it's going to turn out to be one of those things where people say, you know what? Yeah, let me explore. Let me see what other apps are available. Or people are going to be like, yeah, no, I like A, B, C, and D, and they don't have A, B, C, and D. I don't care what E, F, and G are.
Personally, I would want quality over quantity. Of course, that's not anything special. Most people want quality over quantity.
Right.
Apple seems to think that over 1,000 apps or 1.5 million apps, if these iPad apps are running in compatibility mode, is a benefit, which makes sense because it's a big number. People like numbers, people like large numbers.
Yeah.
But personally, I would prefer Apple and developers take their time to come up with Vision Pro specific apps that are designed specifically for the Vision Pro because the interface is different. I mean, a screen is just a virtual screen, but the way you interact with that virtual screen is different. It's new. It can track your eyes, it uses hand gestures, you can use trackpad and a mouse, you use your MacBook, all these different, that's the eye tracking eye movement and then the finger gestures is something brand new. And what I don't want personally is to load up an app and it doesn't take advantage of those new gestures because it's just running in compatibility mode, which makes me work harder to interact with the app because it doesn't take advantage of those new gestures. So I would much rather prefer Apple take their time and developers take their time to like really think about how can we reinvigorate our interest in our apps because of this new device, which adds these new interfaces versus just saying, blah, we've got 1.5 million apps. And then I got to create a new workflow for myself to be able to interact with these apps versus just understanding in my brain, just doing the work and saying, okay, this is a new interface. This is a new environment. So all I got to be focused on is interacting in this new environment versus trying to figure out, because that's one of the problems I had with Final Cut Pro on an iPad. It's a whole new experience, not a whole new. A lot of the processes that I already have worked out on how to use Final Cut Pro on my Mac, I got to relearn that all over again. But if I'm constantly switching back and forth, that kind of, I got to do all the extra work.
It jumbles your brain because it's like I have to flip on a dime as to what input I'm using to actually use the application.
Versus when I'm using the Vision Pro, I'm already setting myself up and saying, hey, forget all that other stuff on your iPad, forget all that other stuff on your Mac. This is something all brand new. So relax and just kind of use it. Versus like, all right, well, where do I find the trim and where do I find? I'm looking for all that new stuff, thinking, I can utilize the same thing, when it's not. So
it's not going to give you the same user experience.
Right. I'd rather just empty mind go into a brand new experience versus trying to bring my current process into this new thing and it not work the way I want it to.
Yeah, I agree. What's the point of spending $4,000 on some hardware if you're going to try and stuff what is it, a square peg into a round hole? Just use it for what it is. You have over 1,000 apps. Go explore something new. Try something else.
Or
you
just
already have your experience on iPad. So if there's a certain app you want to use, just go to your iPad and use it and go about your day.
Right. And I'd much rather like a YouTube reinvent their app specifically for the Vision Pro
Yeah.
versus me trying to find a channel and find the video in some newfangled way that doesn't work all that well because it's just
Yeah.
compatible.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. That is going to wrap it up for the lowdown. We're going to head on over into second string where we talk all other tech. So, like I mentioned before, it's a lot of Vision Pro conversation out here in these streets. But I did see this particular article and I was like, this is very interesting and it's very apropos because everybody is using this text generative AI. So, Google competitor to Chat GPT was called Bard. They have now rebranded it to Gemini.
Already? They
And
rebranded it already.
already, yep, it's no longer Bard. It is now Gemini. So you can use it web based and you can use it in app form. So you have access to it that way. But the thing is, they just announced the change from Bard to Gemini, and now they've I'll say issued a new privacy warnings. Before we get into that, I don't know if you've noticed, but a couple of weeks ago, I was just getting email after email after email. I think I may have mentioned it before about new privacy notices.
Mhm.
I've been getting them in the mail as well from, my insurance company and different places that I use. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? What's coming that we don't know about that all these people are issuing all of these privacy updates all at the same time across industry. It's just coming all at once. So in particular, when it comes to this text generative, your chat bot, your AI assistant, you think your Chat GPT, now your Bard, now Gemini. So what the biggest issue with this is, with this privacy notice, is going to start collecting your information as a user. So it's going to start collecting your conversations, your location, your feedback, and your usage and information. So it's one of those things where it's going to start to try and learn you as an individual who uses this app. It's not quite sentient, but it kind of gives sentient vibes where the code itself is trying to learn you and your habits, where you go, where you are, how you speak, how, because you can type in whatever prompts you want to get to elicit the response that you are, the information that you're trying to get. So if it can learn the way you speak, your cadence, the type of language you use, do you use shorthand, do you use longhand, are you more formal, or are you more less if you're more informal. So it's one of those things where it's kind of giving people a bit of a pause, because before they were not capturing and collecting this information that you know of.
Right.
But now they're saying, so hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're collecting, and it is Google. So it's like, ooh, what does this really mean for me? Do I really want to use this app so much? And they're using it under the guise of, oh, we're only collecting this to help you.
Mhm.
It's for us to be able to provide a better user experience, better usage for you to improve the products that we're going to give to you.
There's going to come a time to where we are really going to have to decide whether or not we want to help these companies make all this money for free.
Yeah.
And yes, these companies could make the argument that they are collecting this information to promise to make interacting with your smartphones and other devices considerably smarter and easier. Is that enough based on all of the information that we are giving up to these
Mm-hmm.
companies, right? Is it enough to just say, oh, it's going to make it smarter and easier versus I'm giving up all of this information about me, like all the things you mentioned. And it's going to come a time to where they're going to really have to prove that that's what it's for,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the benefit that I'm going to get rather,
Right.
you know, And I there's going to come a time to where it's just like, all right, this ain't what all this information you're giving me in return, I'm still not getting the value. And we
Mm-hmm.
are going to have to decide to be like, all right, if you want this information, you got to make it worth my while. And I'm not saying bribery, but I'm saying these companies are
Mm-hmm.
going to have to start paying us to get this information, you
Because
know.
these companies have $1 trillion market caps. They are
Mhm.
very, very rich,
And this
very,
new
very rich off of you
and
and your data.
this AI
Yeah.
is the new arms race, and whoever can get there the fastest. And we're gonna have to decide, are we gonna benefit from that?
Mm-hmm.
Just making my smartphone know what I'm gonna be doing in the morning as soon as I
Mm-hmm.
turn on my phone. I don't know if it's enough. I'm gonna need you to cut me a check, because I am
Where's the profit sharing? Profit
exactly,
sharing.
exactly. And I hope that's one of our pushbacks as people who are using these products. I'm not using Google for free. I'm not using Apple for free. I'm paying for Google services. I'm paying for Apple services. I'm paying for their devices. I'm paying for their hardware. So it's just like, all right, you getting that. I give you money, you give
Mm-hmm.
me a device. I pay
Mm-hmm.
you a subscription, you give me software, right? This is like something else. And
Yeah.
we're gonna have to decide what's the value add, what are we getting out of it, and if it's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah. And I don't know if people, I would rather have convenience and, all the other stuff is okay. I don't think people are really aware of the trajectory that this could potentially go, because right now it's convenient. It helps them, it makes their life easier, it makes their work easier. And that's really all they care about. And then, Google, Gemini, Bard, whatever you want to call it, they're letting you know, hey, we're actually going to do this stuff too. But I think it just gets lost in the sea of information. And at this point, the benefit to using these AI assistants is right now greater than, their privacy, because I don't think people realize that the use cases, they are gleaming data from every aspect of your life from billions of people. And what do they intend to do with this data down the road? How are they going to use this? And I say this because I was reading something, how you mentioned the arms race. A lot of these companies are staying afloat because most of them have secret or undercover relationships with the government. And it all kind of ties back to weapons, so to speak. And someone was mentioning how that happened. Dipping dots, the ice cream that you get in the mall, that
It's
it tastes like ice cream, but it's
NASA,
little dots.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's like, how is this company staying in business? They can't be making that much money.
selling Dippin'
Well,
Dots at amusement
right.
parks.
Right. So the thing is, they're not, but because of their cryo technology, because it takes to freeze these little dots and taste like ice cream, this cryo technology is very beneficial and interesting to the government. So they
Mhm.
have contracts with the government to use their cryo technology that they used to freeze this ice cream, but they use it in defense.
They've
So that's where their
licensed
money is coming
they've
in. Right.
licensed their technology to the military,
Right.
and
Right.
that offsets the cost that it
Their
takes to
little
actually sell it.
their little fun thing. Like now
Mhm.
the ice cream thing is like their little, oh, that's just my little fun project. But their money is coming from this. And in the article that I was reading, it was mentioning like so many other companies that do this, that it's like, yeah, we sell this, but actually our money comes from the government.
That's the
So it's on
whole
those.
that was the whole push and pull from, Iron Man. He was the
Yeah.
government was trying to take over because they wanna use it, and Tony Stark was like, "No, no, no, I'm switching from military stuff to, more environment,
Mm.
eco-friendly, new power sources things," and the government's like, "Nah,
Nah, B,
we
we
need
want
that."
this. If you don't give it to us, we're gonna take it
Right.
because we want it to make weapons. So
Mhm.
yeah, so it's one of those things where right now I don't think this is harmless, but it may appear to some people as just being harmless. Oh, it's not that much. It's just how often I use it, where I use it, how I ask prompts. I'm just asking them to, to write me a paragraph on giraffes. It's not that big of a deal, but what they don't realize when you cobble all this stuff together from billions of people around the world, this data set is huge and it contains a lot, and it can be used in so many ways that do not benefit us, that benefit the consumer, but benefits a lot of other people in their pocketbook. So,
And well, not more importantly, also to add to that, the warnings that Gemini is putting as far as your data, and some of them list according to the story. It says, for one, it says, please don't enter confidential information in your conversations or any data you wouldn't want a reviewer to see or Google to use to improve our products, services, and machine learning technologies. And there's another one. Gemini apps conversations that have been reviewed by human reviewers are not deleted when you delete your Gemini app's activity because they are kept separately and are not connected to your Google account. Instead, they are retained for up to 3 years. So basically what they're saying
so they
is,
say it could be longer.
right, basically what they're saying is, to kind of sum that up, is we are not going to take all of your information, but we do take a subset of your information to make our products better, yada, yada, yada. That information that we do take and actually gets looked at by a reviewer, make sure that information is not something that you would not want anybody to know. And number two, if you do decide to delete your app, that information that we did take and look at, we keeping that.
Keeping it.
But
that's ours.
But nobody's going to read that.
No.
They're going to go into Gemini and put searches on how to kill my wife. They're going to put searches on how to
rob a bank,
how to hide child pornography on my computer, because people are weird and crazy and crazy like
gross.
that.
Yeah.
And how does,
and they think because they delete it, it's gone. It's never gone.
Or
ever.
they think because Google says we anonymize your information, we don't tie that back to an actual person. If I, as a Google
if it's
reviewer,
harmful information,
exactly,
then yeah, they're tying it back.
If I'm, as a Google reviewer, see that you are trying to figure out how to hide child pornography, I'm telling.
Ratting you out. I'm snitching.
I'm leaking it to the news because Google ain't gonna do nothing. So I'm going to be a whistleblower and I'm going to leak it to the news. So now you in trouble because you thought Google would anonymize your information. So the fact that the fact that they have to go through all that should give us pause, like you mentioned at the top, on whether or not we want to give all of this information in exchange for convenience, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
If they got to say all that, if they have to explicitly say that,
if this is the stuff they tell you,
no,
imagine what they aren't telling you.
No, thank you,
bro. They got you.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you realize it is too late, it's done. It's like the feds. By the time the feds come to you, it's too late. There's no deleting pictures off Instagram. They already got it. You're done. You're done. So yeah. So it's one of those things where be very careful what you do out here. And when you're clicking on these, accepting all these cookies, when you click on these user agreements, because I just want to get to the thing, just scroll to the bottom, click yes, or click agree because I want to get to whatever I'm doing. Just be mindful that they have legal counsels that are very large legal departments that make sure that they are covered in whatever it is that they're doing or whatever it is they're keeping or whatever they are collecting. Trust and believe that is a contract. When you click agree, you are entering into a contract with whatever company and or software that you're agreeing to. So just being mindful, putting it out there. You grown, you do what it is you want to do with your data. But just be advised, it could come back to bite you in the butt. That's going to wrap up Second String. We're going to head on over to For the Culture, where we talk about pretty much anything we want, whether it be socially relevant, entertainment, commentary on the world. This is what we talk about in this segment. And I do have to apologize because we are in Black History Month And we typically do Teching While Black, where we highlight a Black tech innovator. Last week, I did not include one, so I'm definitely going to have to make that up later this month, whether it's doing two in one show, doing something supplementary. I'll have to figure that out. But I did not forget this week. And the person that we are highlighting in Teching While Black this week is Dr. Janet Emerson Bashen. She was the first African American woman to hold a software patent for Linkline. This software could remotely secure, store, and share information about cases she worked on as a founder as a founder of the Bashen Corporation, which is basically a private consulting company that investigates EEOC complaints, that's Equal Employment Office Opportunity complaints, under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And I have to say, you're saying, oh, she's the first one to hold a software patent. Dr. Bashen is only 67. So that lets you know how recent this particular point in history is, that she's only 67 and she was the first Black woman to ever secure a software patent. All right. In Actual for the Culture, I didn't want to cover the whole Shannon Sharpe Monique situation because I'm over it. Unfortunately, Cat Williams, in his authenticity, has basically written a script for people to be able to go on Club Shay Shay and go viral for basically just crapping on, people that they don't like or airing their grievances or whatever. I was like, it's gone like overboard. It's gone into some other crazy stuff. And I was like, even though that's basically dominated social media, I was like, I don't want to talk about that because it's unfortunate, that she's brought her child into this madness. And I was like, I'm not going to give any more breath to that.
Well,
So
what I will say on that comment is Shannon Sharpe has to be careful. What I mean by that is he has made it a point to say, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a professional analyst. A professional interviewer or things like that. So y'all have to give me some grace on how I handle these conversations, which is fair, right? He
But at
has to
some
be
point-
careful though,
Yeah.
because he did it a little bit in the Cat Williams interview. I didn't see the Monique interview, but I pretty much got all of the gist. And what I noticed with the Monique interview, the clips that I saw, was he is interjecting himself into the interview, specifically with Monique. Now, I'm not saying she was being manipulative. That's not what I'm saying. There was a point in the time to where Monique was asking Shannon Sharpe
Him questions
about getting people on his show to kind of squash some to confirm or deny or squash some of the issues.
This is not a court
system.
system.
It's not just that. Is a interviewer, when you're interviewing somebody, they are the subject.
Right.
But what's happening is, since Shannon Sharpe is not a journalist or professional interviewer, he feels like, well, I'm just having a conversation. Well, what happens is, if you are having a conversation, you now become part of the controversy, right? Because you've seen it do it with a little bit with Cat Williams, and he even more so with Monique, when she was trying to ask him, yo, if me and you are cool, and you know that this other person that we know has a problem with me, it is your responsibility to go reach out to this person and say, yo, I heard you having a problem with so-and-so. We need to make this right. That is not the job. That is not the job of a person doing an interview. Now, if you want to call yourself, I'm not a professional journalist, I'm not an interviewer, we're just having a conversation, be ready for you to be wrapped up in whatever said controversy that the person you're having a conversation with decides to bring on your show. While it's all good now and everybody loves Club Shay Shay, which still I think is a dumb name.
I think the show's stupid. Yeah.
Shannon Sharpe better be careful, because case in point, the whole Mike Epps thing, right? Mike Epps was like, yo, that's the spot where you go viral. That's the spot where you get all this press. So he from what it looks like, manufactured beef with Shannon Sharp
Mm-hmm.
just for the purpose of him getting some, some residuals, some collateral from all of the popularity that came from Cat Williams' interview and came from Monique's interview. So
Some
now,
table scraps.
so
Yeah.
so now Shannon Sharp has to go and try to figure out how to deal with this whole Mike Epps thing, because he's now a part of the conversation. So Shannon Sharp is going to have to pick. He's either going to just have to be, these are some conversations I'm having with people I know, or this is an interview. So therefore he can then decide if he wants to remove himself and just have that person be the subject, or is he part of the conversation? So that's what I say about that.
Yeah, I see this having the potential to be really, really bad. And I think the way that the Cat Williams interview blew up, people saw that to say, hey, this is how I can go viral and, get some extra publicity off of my stuff. And it's not the best way to do that. It can be very harmful to a lot of people.
It can be if you're using traditional methods. Like if you're doing a traditional press run, the publicists, the PR, whatever, they line up all these interviews with these Good Morning America, Good News Today, even the Breakfast Club, and Vlad TV. They set up, even what's the one everybody hates?
Joe Budden.
They line up all these things with Joe Budden, and there was the other one. What's the other one that leaks all the? No, not even Black, just the TMZ.
TMZ.
They will strategically set up all of these things, which is totally
and the guy
fine.
who runs TMZ is a lawyer, so he knows how to make it work,
right?
Where he don't get in trouble,
which is perfectly fine. Shannon Sharp has to decide if he wants to be a part of that, or is he just like, I'm not trying to do all that, because like you said, he is now the target. He has to decide on whether or not he wants to contribute to somebody going viral at his expense.
Yeah. I don't know. They need to figure that out. I guess I don't care either way. So what I really want to talk about, I know that you have Gen Zers in your home. I have my nephew and other Gen Zers in my orbit. And I was on Twitter yesterday and I saw this comment and I was like, you know what? This has gone a little bit too far. What has gone too far is shorthand lingo. So, before LOL, laughing out loud, or, ASAP, ASAP, as soon as possible. Those are standard things, and those things basically make sense because you're taking the first letter of each word and making it a thing. Now, I saw this Twitter. It says 30 and up. Just wanted to update y'all. They're using EVB, the 3 letters EVB, to say everybody.
So my question to you is, do you have a concern that they are not using the standard shorthand? Like you mentioned, they're taking the first letter of each word and they're shortening it into a shorter thing, right? Or are you upset at the whole, at the rise, or the increase of shorthand that we now have to learn? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. To me, it's the dumbing down of it. Like I said, LOL, that makes sense. Or LMAO, those type of things to me make sense, but we don't use those words in official or standard means of communication. A lot of these kids now are speaking in this shorthand. So it's one of those things.
Go ahead.
And so it's one of those things where if you're taking a phrase and shortening it, like laughing out loud, okay, whatever. But if you're taking an actual word, and shrinking a word, especially because all they're doing is typing it out. Predictive text, all you got to do is start typing EV and it'll print it for you. Just click the button. You don't have to shorten every word. And then it needs to, if you're going to do it, make it make sense. Like another one is ASL. I thought they were talking about sign language. Right. But it means as hell. Like, how? ASL means as hell. You know how AF
I have
means
that.
at
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that
yes.
one.
Yeah, and
So
they've
go ahead.
taken even AF and made it ASF. So they've made it
What's
more
ASF?
words.
Oh,
A equals
AS.
AF.
That's
AF. Yeah. 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 And my nephew, he responds and he'll say yeah, but yeah is YH. Yeah is not YEAH, YEA, YES. It's just YH instead of the actual word. So my thing is, it's like the dumbing down of the language. Shorthand is cool, it's fine if you just kind of get through to it, but it's really, to me, if you're taking actual words and shrinking those into bite-sized things and then you're actually using it, you're actually using it in regular conversation. That's where I'm just like, okay, I think we need to have a conversation here.
so I have two thoughts,
Okay.
maybe just one thought. I don't have a problem with new lingo
Okay.
because it just is what it is.
Right.
New generations come through, they have new things
They
that
put
they
their
want to
spin
do.
on it. Right.
Right. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. My only concern is when they're not using the quote unquote rules, right? And what you made a perfectly good point to where, all right, it's one thing to have multiple words and you take the first letter of each word and you make that condensed into shorthand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they're not following that rule.
Mm-mm.
And like you said, for instance, this one you put in the thing, everybody is a one word, but they're taking one word and they're shortening it down into EVB, which doesn't make any sense unless you are familiar enough with that particular shorthand, which makes it harder, not just for older folks, but people in general to learn the lingo, to learn the lingo. The only way it works, in my opinion, is if um, you use two or three words,
Mm-hmm.
keeping that same rule and taking
Right.
those three words and using the first letter. Like you know, right?
Right.
That's like four words, and they took first letter of each one, and now it's IY, whatever it is, right?
Right.
That takes learning. Again, that's just is what it is. New generation. You don't have to relearn how to speak, right?
Right.
On the internet. That's fine. My thing is just use the same rule to apply to it all. Now, when you get to taking trying to shorten big into bi, it's like that's just dumb because all you got to do is add the other g on there, and two, you're not following the rules. Do whatever you want to do, just follow the rules. We've already established a rule to where we use the first letter of each word and we
In a
take
phrase.
a phrase and we shorten that down into a couple of letters, right? Use
Right.
that rule. Now do whatever you want to do. If y'all want to decide that, internet usage capability is just IUC, that's fine.
Yeah.
But now you taking
But
internet,
you're not going to shorthand internet in the INT.
right? That's interception. We already got that. So I get it. Just follow the rules.
Yeah. But they're not following the rules.
No.
It's pretty insane. I'm just like, I don't understand. And like I said, with the whole he was responding, but is just YH. Like you can put the E and the A in there or the
Mhm.
YEA.
Or
You
just
gotta just
why for
yeah.
yes.
Or YA, yeah. I mean, you gotta take out the meat part and just leave
Right,
the bread. I
right.
don't get it. I don't get it. But I was like, I saw this and I was like, you know what? I think we've gone too far.
Yeah. Just follow the rules. That's my
Yeah.
thing. Do whatever you
Yeah.
want. Make whatever little thing, y'all, you little young kids or folks on the internet. That's fine. If I'm out of the loop, I'm just out of the loop.
Yeah.
But just don't
Don't
push me
expect me
out.
to
Don't push me
don't
out.
expect me to know how to respond to this, or when I say, what the hell is this? What are you talking about? And that
Mhm.
you don't know. No, I don't, because this
You-
doesn't make any sense on
You're
how you
making
got here.
you're making a new dialect, a new language. I'm not trying to learn no new language. I can't
You're
even
making it
learn.
weird.
I barely got English down pat. You want me to learn a whole new language? No, thank you.
Just because you decide to make it up makes no sense. No sense. Okay, that is going to wrap up for the culture. Let's head on over to the hookup for our tech tip of the week.
Yep. So I've kind of sort of mentioned the iMessage shortcuts before, and one of the shortcuts that I mentioned last time was how to automatically insert a photo by going
Hmm.
through the iMessage apps. For those who don't know, if you open up iMessage and then you go to type a new message to somebody, there's a little plus symbol to the left of the message box. And if you tap that, it'll pull up all these different apps that you can use to include in iMessage, whether it be adding new music, adding something from Pinterest, adding if you got a second keyboard that just uses memes, you can tap that plus symbol and get access to all those apps. Well, my tip this week is how you can rearrange those apps to where the ones that you want to see show up at the top or at first in the list before you have to scroll down and then click more to see all of them. So basically what you do is, again, like you're going to use one of those apps, you press the plus symbol, it'll pull up a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. If you want your app to show up in that first six, basically you tap and hold that app and you just drag it around to rearrange or renumber that app. And then if you, like I said, if you want to get to the second level, you have to click more. You just tap and hold that app in the more and you just drag it up to the first level, and you can reorganize those apps so you can quickly get access to them without having to scroll up or jump through the second level. So that's my tip for the week. If in fact you use those iMessage apps, which I would suggest you do, especially if there's some good ones like the music app. If I want to quickly
Hmm.
share music to somebody, I can open up the message, click the music app within the iMessage, and quickly find some music that I want to share with somebody. But if the music app is at the very, very bottom, I'm not going to use it because I got to jump through a couple hoops. Well, if you know you use the music app a lot, my tip again, like I said, is to rearrange all those apps by tapping and holding them and then dragging them to reorder them in the way you want.
Cool. All right. And with that tech tip, that's going to wrap up the show for this week. We definitely want to thank each of you for tuning in. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva everywhere. So to connect, to comment, to share, and to support our show, you can head on over to snobblewestcast.com to get all of the details. And with that, we are going to wrap it up for this week. And thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.